Hey guys, John Ryan here, and welcome to my first extended-length podcast called Must Know People. It's a local podcast where local people are the stars. Now, before we jump into this week's episode, if you know someone who you think we should be talking to on the pod, let us know. You can always email me at john@carrollbroadcasting.com. That's John with an H, by the way. john@carrollbroadcasting.com. And with that, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. And enjoy this week's episode of Must Know People.
KCIM Sports Rewind. A look back at the week in high school sports. Brought to you by St. Anthony Rehab Services. Here's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, John Ryan, and Jeff Honnold.
We do welcome you here to KCIM Sports Rewind. Jeff Blankman with you here today. And, of course, we've got Casey Miners in the studio. We got to talk to John about getting that open fixed. I didn't realize that Honnold's name was still in it, Casey. We'll get you on there.
Right, whatever works.
Have you been on it now for almost 2 years?
Oh, pretty close.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty close to it.
Okay. So, yeah, eventually we'll get Honnold's name. I think Honnold was, Tom Hawkat for like 2 years before we got it changed over too. So, yeah. How you doing today?
Good. We're going to talk some high school sports. So,
yeah.
It should be a nice week, kind of preparing for the basketball season. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I went through all the schedules last night basketball-wise and started working on our broadcast stuff at least up until the holiday break. And realize it is true, the girls' basketball season can start on the 22nd, which is less than 2 weeks away now. But we actually don't have anybody playing, at least according to the schedules I've received so far, until the 25th. Mm-hmm. So got a little extra time, and then the boys could start December the 2nd, but they're not going to start until December the 3rd is when our first area game is scheduled. So we've got a little more time here between seasons than I had anticipated, even though it's only just a couple of days. But, it's going to give us a little bit more time to kind of delve into the upcoming winter sports season. We've got an additional sport that we're going to be talking about, and I will be the first one to tell you I might be the worst bowler in the entire world. I'm horrible at bowling, so it's not a sport I know well. But both Carroll and Kemper have added a girls and boys sanctioned bowling team to their roster of sports for the winter.
That's going to come up this winter, so should be interesting to see how those do. I believe both teams are going to be coached by one person, so
okay.
We'll have both boys and girls bowling now added to our stuff, so we'll have to incorporate them into everything we do now. So looking forward to covering bowling for the first time.
Yeah, I told Casey I'm going to let him type all the stories because I don't know anything about bowling. But no, we'll split it up as we always do. But Casey will write the much better bowling stories because you go out and you at least throw 100, right? When you go out,
I don't even throw 100. I'm lucky if I probably get to 50.
But you have some insight on the sport, right? You're
related
to the Carroll coach?
My cousin's the Carroll coach, so I know a little bit, but it ain't a whole lot, so I would say that.
Should be fun. Anything in college sports? I know John likes to start off with a little college and professional stuff. Anything kind of catch you off guard this last week?
I'm surprised that you didn't start the show off telling Iowa fans that they needed to watch what they say because a bunch of people saying that Nebraska lose to UCLA, then Iowa ended up doing it.
I told you I don't ever pipe off to anybody. There's no text messages and no phone calls and Facebook messages that get sent for me to anybody when their team loses. But I will say, as I was driving home from West Lyon the other night on Friday night and listening to the end of that UCLA-Iowa game with Doug Waniger in the car and stuff, I didn't say anything to Doug. I won't. Doug never really says anything to me. But there was a part of me that said, all of those text messages I got last week and Facebook messages making fun of me that Nebraska lost to UCLA, a little karma to a lot of those fans who, thought it was an embarrassment for the Huskers to lose to UCLA, and then, some certain college football program just went out and did the same thing last Friday.
Yeah, UCLA's playing good. As soon as they beat Nebraska, I was worried about going into the game. I
tried to tell you that last Tuesday. Their losses are all to good football teams. 4 of them are ranked. I think in Minnesota was 6-3 going into last week. I can't remember if they
the
won. They got beat by
lost.
Rutgers.
Yeah, they lost to Rutgers.
Yeah, but had been playing pretty well. So all of their losses at the time were to good football teams. But yeah, anything else catch you off guard?
Not really. It was kind of a quiet week. You anticipated the Alabama LSU game to be good, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Right.
I mean, Ole Miss blew out Georgia.
I'm not surprised
home.
Ole Miss won. Just surprised that they handled that game. Yeah.
The two other good games you would think were the only about ranked matchups, and they weren't really
right.
They weren't really close. This week. So
Miami finally tripped up after almost probably having should have lost 2 or 3 times early in the season. They finally got tripped up by Georgia Tech.
I mean, technically it's Georgia Tech's second win against a top 10 team if you count Florida State.
Yeah, and how are they so awful this year?
I mean, Mike Norvell fired his OC, his DC, and the wide receivers coach, but I don't know if that's going to help him save his job at the end of the year.
Yeah, no. But how do you go from being an injured quarterback late in the season away from being in the playoffs a year ago to probably finishing with 1 win this year, maybe 2 if they can sneak another one out, and to just get absolutely embarrassed by Notre Dame.
Not even just Notre Dame, but most of the games they're getting absolutely embarrassed in, so it's kind of crazy.
Not even competitive. It's just amazing to see. And then poor Iowa State fans, I think most of them enjoyed the trip down to Kansas City, but not the outcome that they wanted. Kansas actually looked like the team that was ranked in the preseason and picked to be a team that was going to contend in the Big 12.
I would go on a limb and say if you put all the 3 and 6 teams together, they played Kansas would come out and win that.
Right.
That's just what I saw.
Right.
From Kansas. I mean, they actually looked like a team that could compete in the Big 12. I don't know what was going on during that middle part of the season, but they actually look like a team that could compete in the Big 12. And Iowa State's offense gave up over 500 yards.
I know.
When was the last time that happened?
Yeah. I was talking to a good friend of mine that I've known since college, and he's a diehard Iowa State fan, and he goes, usually if our offense isn't good, the defense can save us. He says that's the first time he can remember in the last couple of years that the defense didn't play well enough to at least give them a chance. So, that'll be interesting to see now how they bounce back. Colorado looks like they could be the
right
team
now,
into the Big 12 championship game.
BYU and Colorado, if neither of them slip up. So Iowa State's still got a chance, but they've got to win out, and Colorado's got to lose. You would think so.
And who would have thunk when Nebraska just destroyed Colorado early in the season that the Buffs would now be sitting as a ranked team and a team that has a chance to get into the college football playoff?
They taking advantage of a weaker conference.
I know they have, you play the schedule that's in front of you, and that's what you got to do.
That's what Iowa fans have to say every year. Play the schedule that's in front of you. They don't schedule. Iowa doesn't go out and schedule.
And they get an easy schedule every year.
I know.
You admit it, they do.
It's tough. It's tough when you have when the Big Ten's so easily protected on rivalries, and it doesn't help that Iowa has 3.
I know. I don't think they should have been allowed to do 3. Just I don't think any school in the conference should have been allowed to do 3. I understand that they had 3 that they didn't want to lose. I just find it hard because then it limits.
Exactly, it limits
who you can play.
Because when they did the old Big Ten East and West, you only had 1 game on your schedule that crossed over.
Right.
Well, Ohio State's got to play Penn State. They got to play Michigan. And then to kind of. It's hard to get those other teams to cross over, so there's going to be a team, and granted, it seems like Iowa every year, but again, with those 3 protected rivalries, and then you add the Cyhawk in there's 4 rivalries that Iowa's playing a year, and then you add another 5th game into that. It's hard to match up schedules and get Iowa to consistently play Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State.
Right.
But. And it's not Iowa that goes out and schedules.
It's
the Big Ten that does it. So if people are upset about Iowa's schedule all the time, you got to go complain to the Big Ten.
And we do.
Yeah.
We do. I just laugh because Nebraska's played Ohio State more since we joined the league in 2011 than what Iowa has since the year of 2000, and you've been in the league the whole time. So it makes Nebraska fans chuckle just a little bit, but probably more of a frustration chuckle. But it's college football playoff pairings and stuff going to be known here in a few weeks. Only about 3 weeks left of the regular season or so.
2 games. I would say 3 weeks left of the regular season.
Maybe a month for some of those teams, like the Army-Navy game. I think will come. That's going to be after the conference championship
it's after the conference
games.
Championship, so it'll be 4 weeks away from that one. But
right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to run off the top of my head. I mean, Iowa's 6-4. I think they have a bye week this week, and then they round out with Maryland and Nebraska.
They get a bye week before Nebraska.
Bye week, so they play Maryland this week then.
Yeah,
and then they'll have. I think they play Maryland. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
I would say I'm not as up to date on Iowa's
Just
schedule
another
as
thing that makes
I have been.
Just another thing that makes Nebraska fans happy. Every one of our teams over the last 6 games gets a bye the week before they play us.
Hey, I'm going to be.
I know it's not Iowa, it's not the teams, but the Big Ten never seems to.
I'm hoping to be in Kinnick for the Nebraska game, so we'll see how it goes. My first actual big rivalry.
Okay.
That I'm going to be going to, so I'm kind of excited to see it.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. I'm sure it'll turn out the way you want it to as well. So, but let's move on now. You and I were both down. It's hard to believe this was a week ago. We were down in Coralville for state volleyball last Tuesday. Kemper Knights opened up against Wahlert Catholic, and I thought played well. Maybe not in the first set, but made some nice adjustments. Kind of got refocused. I think the speed of which Wahlert played, and when I say the speed, the sets, they ran some things in that first set that Kemper hadn't seen on film, and thought Kemper, the kids did a nice job of kind of figuring out, along with the coaches, in between set 1 and set 2, won set 2, and then everybody points to late set 3, and I think they're accurate. If Kemper wins that, there's still no guarantee they go on to win the match, but if you go up 2-1 into set 4, I think you're in much better shape. But I forget the setter's name right now off the top of my head for Wahlert Catholic, but she did a nice job dumping. But I thought where she hurt Kemper the most was every time she went back to the service line, she seemed to serve them on a run. And it just happened that Kemper got into that rotation where she was back at the service line there late in set 3, and she served Wahlert Catholic on a run that got them the lead late when it looked like Kemper was going to put that away, and then Wahlert Catholic ends up pulling out set 3, and then I think Kemper felt a little bit of the pressure being down 2-1 going into set 4, fell behind early, and then just couldn't get back into it.
I mean, I thought Kemper looked like the best team.
I did too.
That's just my opinion. I thought Kemper was the better team going into the matchup. I just think Kemper just had the little things not go their way.
Right.
Volleyball is such a game of errors and runs that if those start to add up, then it's going to start to downslide. But I wouldn't say it downslided on Kemper, but in that first and fourth set, too many little things went wrong. They were either hitting balls long or hitting them out and stuff like that. But I think watching them play and overall throughout the match, I thought that they were the better team.
Agreed.
And a lot of girls coming back next year. They should be really talented again.
Yeah, I'm graduating 2 seniors in Brooke Roy and Carson Overmole, and they'll be missed. But so much talent and now so much experience down at the state tournament coming back. So I look for them to be really, really strong next year. Football-wise, we wrapped up the football season. You went up to Audubon at St. Mary's of Remsen. And not the way we wanted things to go. That one kind of went south for Audubon fairly quickly. Yeah. So what kind of happened there early in the game?
No, just Remsen's physicality, I think. I don't think Audubon's seen a team that big or physical up to that point. And I wouldn't say they were real big. They were just, looked like grown men out there playing 8-man football. Right. A lot of them did. And Audubon, won the district. It had a really good season, and I don't know if they were ready for the physicality that Remsen St. Mary's would bring. I think they expected it coming in, and they tried to match it, but it was really tough. They couldn't get the ball moving early in the game. Aaron Olson broke out a touchdown late in the first half that kind of helped the offense get going, but they struggled to throw the football, which is different. I know Audubon doesn't throw it a whole bunch, but they can at least throw it consistently when they need to, and they just struggled to throw it. Struggled to get the run game going, and when you're not. When you didn't have both your starting linebackers, it kind of hurts a little bit on defense just because of how physical Remsen was in their running game. They were breaking off tackles, 2 or 3 tackles a time, and then eventually 10 yards down the field they were getting tackled. So it kind of hurt them defensive a little bit, not being out with your 2 starting linebackers. And I don't know if those two people in would have helped them win the outcome of the game. It might have been a lot closer. Right. But, not having a sure tackler like Austin Christensen out there who just plays physical really hurt them.
An elite guy out on the field. Yeah, it's weird to say it, and I'm going to try to explain what I mean by this. Audubon's probably, I think, the most physical team that we have in our area for football-wise. And for them to get out physical has got to be different for them because they're used to being the more physical team. But we've said it before. I've said it for years. It seems like when our teams here in the area get outside of the area, we run into a physical disadvantage. I don't know if it's because, other areas of the state just generally have bigger kids, or if it's a weight room thing, or what it is, but we saw it Friday night when we went up to West Lyon. Doug Vanderger and I walked out. Actually, we didn't even have to walk down on the field. We were in the press box setting up, and West Lyon's skill players came out on the field, and we went, oof. They looked like a small college team just with their skill guys walking out onto the field, and then the offensive linemen came out, and they were the same height, same athletic build, but 20 pounds heavier than Kemper across the board.
Yeah.
It played out that way. I know Kemper had a really good drive on their opening drive. I think it was a 10-play drive, if I remember right. Carson Canny hit the deep pass for 38 yards down to Tragan Biter that set up a 1-yard touchdown run from Jaron Hoffman, and that tied the game at 1 apiece. But, the defense just did not have an answer. I would love to go back and look at yards after contact for West Lyon that night, because Doug and I were saying that at one point it was probably 85 to 90% of their yards came after contact. And then they went right back down the field and scored to go up 14-7. And then there was a pick six where the guy returned it probably 50 to 53 yards for a touchdown, probably broke 6 or 7 tackles en route to the end zone and stuff. And that completely flipped the game, and West Lyon goes on to score 35 in that second quarter.
Really hurt them.
Yep, and pretty much made it a continuous clock game before the end of the first half. And it's hard to believe Kemper was such a great, and they're a great football team this year. They were such a great football team, but it tells you the level that West Lyon right now is playing at. And I think the semifinals are going to be extremely interesting. I know a lot of people have contacted me and said, how is West Lyon and Van Meter the semifinal round game? And I'm like, well, if you look at the rankings, Van Meter was the 4 and West Lyon was the 1, so that's how it played out. And they're like, oh, those other teams can't be better than Van Meter. And I'm like, well, I think Van Meter's really, really good. So when I say this, I'm not downgrading, but I've heard all year long that Van Meter's not what Van Meter has been the last 2 or 3 years, that they're really good, but they're not what they are. So I think that's the reason they got the 4 seed.
Yeah.
That's not taking anything away from them. They're still a really good football team, and otherwise they wouldn't be at the Dome. But yeah, I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm being hard on everybody. I'm just telling you what I see. It's a physicality issue when we get to those elite level games to be able to get to the next level, and that's where I think our area right now needs to catch up.
I mean, and if you look at historically, especially in football, all the area teams tend to go north.
Yep.
And that's what happened when we went to Remsen. That's what happened when we went to Inwood to West Lyon. So, I don't know.
Even Carroll going over to Mount Vernon, this year, Coach talked about, they just looked like big young men, and stuff over there at Mount Vernon. So it could be just our area just aren't growing the 6'4", 260-pound kids right now, and maybe someday we'll get back into that. But right now it's a size and physicality issue. So Carroll girls swim team wrapped up their season as well on Saturday. That ended our fall sports season. It's hard to believe it came to an end, but they swam well, didn't qualify anybody for state, but had 4 freshmen pretty much as their entire team all season. I don't think they anticipated swimming, but I thought the one comment that I got from Deb Danner was that all of the girls, when they got done swimming and they looked up at their time while they were still in the water, smiled, because they all set a personal best and they all realized what they were capable of, after, working really hard and then kind of wearing, letting things kind of the body rest to get ready to go and tapering down. And they went over and swam really, really well over at the state qualifying meet Saturday in Ames.
And I think that's one thing that Deb's talked about all year, is that they've ran really well. I know when we get her emails from her, she's like, "Oh, well, the girls set personal bests today, and this event, and I think that's kind of interesting and intriguing going into next year. You mentioned they only had 4 girls. It sounds like the number's going to be up next year for them.
Should be, yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how everything goes together next year for them when Carroll could, be back on that, state level stage that they've been on under Deb.
We're going to step away, take a break. We're going to come back. We'll briefly talk about the Rewind festivities from Sunday, and then we've got something we're going to be kind of debuting. First time we've ever done this here on KCIM Sports Rewind. We'll tell you what it is when we come back.
Bring the sparkle and shine this season with Merle Norman's limited edition holiday color collection coming soon. Look for a shining eyes palette full of 6 shades of eyeshadow and a charming cheek blush duo that includes a trial size 24 karat gold firming foundation primer. Remember to try local first this holiday season with Merle Norman and a fun top and jeans.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
We welcome you back here on KCIM Sports Rewind. Jeff Blankman along with KC Miners with you here today as again we wrapped up our fall sports season, which is so hard to believe that the fall sports season has come to an end, and now we get prepared for the winter sports season. But KC, we wrapped up our fall sports season with a Rewind program on Sunday. What stood out for you about this one?
Just the amount of kids that came out. I mean, I know that I talked to you. We had over 70% of the kids came out,
Yep.
and that's nice to see. And I think a lot of the kids had fun, especially the passing competition seems to be, I think the one that the kids most enjoy. And I thought that our all-star game for volleyball was really good now that all of the kids get to participate in it. And even dodgeball, it took the boys a little bit to start chucking them, but it got more competitive each match, each dodgeball game that they played. So I just thought it went really smoothly, on Sunday.
Yeah, I think what stands out for me all the time is the smiles on the faces while the kids are participating. The volleyball girls were all smiling while they were out there. They were playing hard, but they were smiling and having fun and joking around. The dodgeball kids, even though they were chucking the ball hard, they were having fun with football and cross country. And it was kind of interesting to see some of the kids trying to hide behind others in the dodgeball tournament. And then, the football passing competition, when sometimes you get kids that sign up other kids that didn't want to do it, and then they still go out and do it, but they have fun and they laugh and they smile, and that's what the entire event
for sure.
is all about, is to let those kids and the coaches, I think, have fun. I think Brandon Steiger and I think Rusty Wintermote had fun coaching the All-Star game. Brandon didn't even have to get up.
No.
So was able to stay seated the whole time. So we thank everybody that came out. You came up with an idea here a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was kind of a cool thing to do. We've never really done this. We always announce our All Rewind team at the end of the year, but you thought it would be kind of interesting to kind of talk about some of the teams or individuals coming into the winter sports season that might be of interest coming into the season.
I mean, if you're a basketball fan out there, you never know what games to go to in the area. This is to kind of help you saying, who should be a really good team this year. Go watch this kid play because they're really good. And we have a lot of really good players in the area that aren't going to be on this list, so don't take this in a bad way.
Yes.
But I think it's just kind of interesting to kind of another way to preview the basketball season that's coming up and kind of let people know that, hey, we've got really good players in the area. Go support them, because the kids love when people come out and support and pack the gyms and stuff like that.
And this is in no particular order.
No,
so we just jotted down names of the teams and names of the individuals. We're not ranking anybody or any of that. We want to make sure that people understand that. But you want to start off with some of the top teams possibly in the area basketball-wise?
Yeah, we'll just run through the kind of teams that we thought of, in the area. This is boys and girls together that could be really good. We have the Kemper boys, the Exira EHK boys, the Coon Rapids Bayard girls.
Exira EHK girls.
Sorry. My bad.
Yes.
Exira EHK girls, the Coon Rapids Bayard girls, South Central Calhoun boys, the Coon Rapids Bayard boys, Arweva boys, Carroll boys and girls, and then ESAC girls, and then the ICAM Manning boys, just to kind of look at some of the teams. I mean, Kemper should be a top 3 team coming into the season in Class 2A. They're going to be really talented and have a chance to make a run up at the well. The Exira EHK girls, our first year getting to cover them in basketball. They were state, no, they didn't make state. They made a regional final last year, and a lot of their scoring back.
Pretty much
year.
everything
Yeah,
back for scoring wise.
For them this year. They should compete for a Rolling Valley Conference title, and the team right above, under them, Coon. I think finished second or third in the Rolling Valley, made a regional final as well.
Yep.
They bring everything back pretty much besides Breeley last year. And South Central Calhoun boys, Cole Higgins is going to be their main scorer this year. I think for him, Andrew Anderson's going to have a big year.
I think you'll see more out of him this year than you did in last year.
Shooting the basketball, and they're going to be really balanced, I feel like. They're going to have a lot of really good players for him this year. Coon Rapids Bear Boys, what's to say? Cal Hayden going to be their main scorer. You get a chance to talk with Coach Corey Meyer coming up in a couple of weeks for that preview show, and I'm interested to see what he's going to have to say. I know that Coon's got a couple of kids that aren't going out that might have contributed this year, but still should be a really solid.
Hopefully they are going out.
Yeah, should be a really solid ball
We're
club.
basing this off of who should be or potentially or coming back from last year's team. So
yeah, and just to keep going down the list, the Arweva boys bring back a lot of their scoring from last year. They should be a salty team defensively. I think I think their defense was really their main factor last year. They're really athletic.
Yes.
Might not have the best shooters, but they're long, they're athletic, and they're quick. So that should really work to their advantage this year. And the Carroll boys, from our understanding, has been playing in a fall league, so they've been getting a lot of experience playing in teams from the area. Some teams outside of the area, more southern Iowa teams. To really get ready for this season. So I'm expecting big things out of them this year, just because they've had the time to play together, a lot of them.
Right.
So they should have a really good team. And it's going to be hard to replace Evan Hammer, but a lot of the, I would say, like, secondary options are back for Carroll this year. Jared Moore, Stone Siebenaller, Matt Collison. I think that there's going to be some big bench pieces coming off. It seems like every year Randy's got a kid that might have played JV last year that's going to step up and play big minutes for him this year and contribute at a high level. ESAG girls, just going off the top of my head, bring back Kendall Quirk and Addison Ealer, who are
McKenna Steiger,
Sarah Bontrager, so 4 starters.
Right. Chloe Barrett will
Chloe
be back
Barrett will
off the
step
bench.
in,
There's going to be a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you potentially bring back 4 starters there for a team that was pretty good last year. Finished under 500 and I think lost their opening round game, but should be right around that 500 mark plus within the Twin Lakes Conference this year. And the Ike Manning boys arguably have one of the better shooters in the area, and Ben Ramsey. His offensive game kind of is really good. Averaged over 15 points a game last year for him. He'll be the go-to guy, and they're going to need somebody to step up besides him.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see who that is, with losing Ross Kuzla. I don't know if that'll be Ross's brother Brock. Jeff's nephew off the bench played a little bit last year. Davis Rasmussen played a little bit last year. Wyatt Danner played a little bit, came in.
They've got other guys that can score. They're just going to need those guys to step in and fill different roles than what they've had in the past. We'll move on to the top girls players. And again, this is just based off of last season. And, again, in no particular order, Elsa Tiefenthaler for the Kemper Knights. I think she's going to be a terrific scorer for them again this year, and will be able to handle the ball for them. Taryn Peterson may be our top scorer in the area. She can really fill the basket up. Jalen Peterson can score and rebound and stuff down there at Xyroker and Kimmelden for both of those. Malia Clayberg, who was our Rewind Girls Basketball Player of the Year a year ago, is going to have an outstanding year. Anna Hart was right in that hunt for Player of the Year last year until the injury took her out late in the season, but she's a great player. Caitlin Aiden going to be probably the leading scorer and can really shoot and defend, especially guards for the Carroll Tigers. Olivia Rowetter, such a strong player inside and a rebounder and can score. Anna Stangl paced the IK Manning Wolves last year in scoring, is I think poised to put together a big year because she puts in a ton of time on working on her skills and getting better. Kaylee Simons, even though last year she was a sixth girl, first girl off the bench a lot of times for Kemper, there were times she was the best player on the floor in games, so she's just a tremendous player. And Chloe Cook, I thought as last year as a freshman, really came onto the scene well for Carroll, and I look for big things for her this year as a sophomore.
Yeah, I think our girls basketball is going to be very improved from what it was last year. I think we've got a lot of good teams in the area, so excited to see, just in general, I think we're going to have some really good basketball teams this year.
You bet. Let's move on to the boys. Carson Canny, I know Casey and I both really enjoy watching him play. Not the biggest guy in the world as far as height-wise, but maybe not a bigger heart in the game. Can dribble, penetrate, can shoot, and I think he's going to he's got a chance anyway to become the all-time assist leader at Kemper this season, and I think he'll get that job done. Ryan Clare now at Kemper gives them that physical presence and size inside that they were missing last year, and he was our boys basketball Rewind Player of the Year a year ago. Brock Bading, maybe the best shooter in the entire state of Iowa. He's got Steph Curry range and shoots probably as good a percentage as Steph does. So he's elite. Cal Hayden has been special for 2 years, and don't expect anything different from him this year. He's going to dominate, I think, in the Rolling Valley. I think Justin Moore is going to have a big year for the Carroll Tigers. I think he's going to be that guy that takes in some of that Evan Hammer role as that go-to guy for them. Cole Higgins from South Central Calhoun, tremendous scorer, can create his own shots, got a really nice mid-range game. We talked about Andrew Anderson. I expect really big things out of him this year because I think now that he's going to be able to get more shots and stuff up this year. Yes,
dude. That's the way I see it. He's the one guy on the floor that can really shoot it, but might not shoot it all the time. Especially that's what I saw last year from him, but can really shoot it at a high clip.
Understands his role, and I think he knows his role this year probably will be to score more, where last year it was to defend and distribute. This year I think he's going to need to score more. Sam Julin probably rivals Brock Bading as our best shooter, and stuff in the area. Can really shoot the three. I love Blaine Smith's game over at Arweva, can do everything well for them. And Ben Ramsey, you mentioned him earlier, as a guy that can really shoot the basketball, and he's really, I wouldn't say he's a shooter, he's a scorer. He's that old school kind of guy that just finds a way to put the ball in the basket.
He can create his own shot. Really good at creating his own shot and running an offense. So I look for big things that are like a lot of these players. And there's going to be people that we didn't mention. They're going to have big seasons as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We decided to only go with 10 because we felt like that was enough to get in the time of the show. So there's still people that we didn't mention. They're going to have big seasons, and looking forward to putting together those rewind teams at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, some of those kids that we didn't mention may end up being first-team all-rewind kids. Do want to let everybody know that, again, girls basketball practice started yesterday. I think girls wrestling practice started yesterday, I think, as well.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know girls basketball practice did. First girls basketball game can be Friday, November the 22nd. We don't have anybody in our area playing until the 25th, but our girls basketball preview show will air, where we're going to talk, Casey and I will talk to all 10 of our area girls basketball coaches. That's going to air a week from tonight, November the 19th at 6:30 here on KCM. It'll replay if you miss it on Sunday, November the 24th at 10:30 in the morning right here on KCM. Now, after the show is over on that Sunday, I will podcast all of those interviews on one page, so you'll be able to get the full interviews with the coaches, again, available online as well. Now, boys basketball practice starts November the 18th with the first game scheduled for December the 2nd. Our first area game as of now is December the 3rd. Boys preview show will air next Thursday, November the 21st at 6:30 again here on KCM. We'll re-air it on Saturday, November the 23rd here on KCM at 8 o'clock in the morning. And again, very similar to the girls basketball preview show on that Saturday morning. Once the show is over, I'll podcast all of those interviews in case you missed them, so you can go online and catch up with those interviews. So it's about ready to get started, folks.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this basketball season. I think we got a lot of really, as I mentioned, we got a lot of really good teams in the areas, teams that I think can make some noise on both the boys and the girls side. So it should be a really interesting and I think a really fun basketball season.
And I think next week we'll maybe put together some lists for wrestling.
Yeah.
And kind of get everybody excited about the wrestling season coming up.
We got some good wrestlers coming back as well.
We do. So it should be a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in here for KCIM Sports Rewind. Stay with me. Of course, I'm on the air until 10 o'clock.